They won't slam the door. They won't scream goodbye. No, avoidants vanish with precision, not drama. One reply later, one word shorter, one hug colder, and before you know it, you're chasing a ghost that's still in the room. This isn't love fading, it's strategy in disguise. Today, I'll show you how avoidants create distance without you ever noticing, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Avoidants do not leave like a storm, they leave like the wind. Soft at first, quiet, almost unnoticeable. They do not slam the door on your heart. They don't scream, cry, or create a dramatic scene. That's not their way. Their exits are slow, calculated, and barely visible until they're gone, and you're left wondering when exactly they left. Because truth is, they were leaving all along. See, avoidant individuals are wired for emotional safety, not intimacy. To them, closeness is not comfort, it's exposure, and exposure feels dangerous. Vulnerability is a battlefield they have no armor for. So when they start feeling connected, when the emotional temperature rises, their defense system doesn't scream stay. It whispers, retreat. But they don't run. No, they fade. They begin by pulling away just a little. A delayed response, a dry tone, a missed call. You think nothing of it at first. After all, we all get busy. But this isn't about schedule. This is about strategy. The avoidant is testing how far they can pull back before you notice, before you panic, before you ask questions. Then they fade a little more. They show up in body, but not in spirit. The smile is polite, but not present. The eyes no longer hold warmth, only watchfulness. They're measuring you, your reactions, your dependency. And every emotion you express is noted. Not to get closer, but to calculate how much distance they still need to feel safe. They don't want conflict, they want control. And that's the silent power of fading. It's not a break, it's not a fight, it's not a we need to talk. It's less time, less touch, less openness, and eventually less of them. By the time you notice, they've already emotionally left, and you're still arguing over a delayed text. Not knowing the real issue was never the message. It was their silent mission to escape. That's the avoidance gen. Bias. Their ability to fade so slowly, you don't even notice you're being abandoned. Until it's too late. But here's the truth. People who fade never intended to stay. They showed up with a timer in their mind and a backup exit plan in their heart. Not because they don't care, but because they're terrified of caring too much. So what do? They fade. So they never have to fall. Expanded Keynote 2. They trade presence for performance, showing up, but not connecting. Avoidants are excellent actors, masters of keeping the surface calm while the inside stays locked. They show up, smile, play the role, but make no mistake, they are not connected. They have learned to perform affection without feeling it, to mimic connection without surrendering to it, to say, I love you with the precision of memory, not the vulnerability of emotion. Why? Because true presence requires risk, and for avoidance, risk equals danger. Emotional presence means being seen, being known, being open, and that's their worst fear. So what do they do instead? They perform. They give you what they think is just enough to keep you calm, close, quiet. They'll take you on the date. They'll buy the gift. They'll laugh at the joke. They'll hold your hand in public. But when you look into their eyes, hoping to see warmth, you find distance. You feel it, that strange hollowness between you, like they're physically there, but emotionally miles away. This isn't your imagination. This is their coping mechanism. You see, avoidance learned early that being emotionally present gets you hurt. Maybe their caretakers were cold. Maybe they were punished for expressing feelings. Maybe love was given with conditions. Be good, be quiet, be strong. So they adapted. They disconnected. To survive, they became spectators of their own lives, watching emotions from a distance, learning how to copy behavior without truly living in it. This is why they can say all the right words while feeling absolutely nothing inside. It's not cruelty, it's self-protection. Their silence is not peace. It's power, control, and self-preservation. Most people mistake silence for calm. They think someone who doesn't shout must be at peace. But with avoidance, silence is not peace. It's their weapon of choice. You ask them what's wrong. They say, nothing. You try to talk about the relationship. They go quiet. You express your feelings. They stare blankly, nod, or change the subject. This is not indifference. It's intentional distance. Avoidants use silence like a shield. It protects them from vulnerability. It gives them control of the emotional temperature. And most importantly, it keeps you uncertain. Because uncertainty makes you chase. You start wondering, did I say something wrong? Is he upset with me? Should I pull back or try harder? That confusion is not an accident. It's a byproduct of the avoidance silence. Avoidance learned early in life that speaking up leads to danger, rejection, punishment, embarrassment. So instead, they learned the quiet path. A path where silence gives them control over what they reveal, what they feel, and how close you can get. They're not at peace. They're guarded. Their calm is not serenity. It's self-preservation. You think silence means we're fine, but in reality, silence means I've withdrawn, I'm observing, I've built a wall you didn't even notice. And while you're trying to fix the relationship with words, they're protecting their ego with quiet. Because if they don't say anything, they can't say something wrong. If they don't admit a problem, they don't have to solve it. If they don't express a feeling, they don't have to risk your reaction. So the silence remains. Not because they don't care, but because caring openly feels like surrender. And avoidance don't surrender. Every delay in response is a boundary they never voiced, but you feel they don't tell. You're overwhelming me. They don't say, I need space. They won't even admit they're emotionally triggered. But suddenly, their texts take longer, the calls are shorter, plans start to cancel. Avoidants rarely speak their boundaries, but they always act them out. It starts with a pause, a delay in reply, a sudden coolness. You feel the change, but you can't explain it. And that's exactly how they like it. Unclear, unspoken, but fully in control. Avoidants are not good communicators. They are expert distancers. They don't ask for space. They just take it, not loudly, not directly, but subtly, psychologically. They know if they delay long enough, you'll start backing off. You'll stop texting first. You'll stop opening up. You'll shrink yourself so they don't pull away further. And that's the game. The avoidant doesn't say no. They simply wait until you get the message without them ever saying a word. Because to them, speaking a boundary is vulnerable. It's emotional. It invites conflict. And conflict, to the avoidant, feels like emotional exposure, something they can't tolerate. So instead, they delay. They disappear for a day. They don't explain themselves. They let the silence and space do the work. But don't be mistaken. Every delayed response is a silent message. Every unread text is a quiet wall. Every "sorry I've been busy" is emotional withdrawal in disguise. It's not about time. It's about distance. Avoidants fear being consumed, controlled, or obligated. So when things get too close, they create space. Not with words, but with behavior. And if you don't recognize the pattern, you'll take it personally. You'll think you're not enough. You'll start chasing more, giving more, proving more. But the more you push in, the more they'll pull away. Because every delay, every unspoken moment is a boundary. Not verbalized, but felt deeply. They stop asking questions, because knowing you is a risk. You might not notice it at first. The way they used to ask you about your day slowly fades. The way they once leaned in when you spoke, now replaced by silence. They stop asking questions, and you wonder why. Here's why. To an avoidant, curiosity is connection, and connection is danger. Asking questions means getting to know you. Knowing you means getting attached. And attachment, to them, means vulnerability, responsibility, and emotional exposure. They are not wired to explore you. They are wired to protect themselves. When an avoidant begins to care, their brain triggers alarm bells. The closer they get to knowing your soul, the louder that alarm rings. So they pull back, not physically, but psychologically. They stop showing interest, not because they don't care, but because they're scared they'll care too much. You see, when they learn more about you, they begin to feel connected to you. That connection requires presence, and presence requires emotional availability. That's the one thing they fear the most. So instead of digging deeper into your heart, they stay in the shallows. They'll talk about TV shows, food, maybe your work, but they won't ask you about your fears, your dreams, your pain, your past. Not because they don't wonder, but because they don't want to carry the weight that knowing brings. Because if they know you, they can't leave without guilt. If they know you, they might get attached. And if they get attached, they lose the control they've spent years building. So instead of risking that depth, they disengage emotionally. You'll feel the gap, the emotional distance growing wider, even when they're sitting right next to you. That's how avoidants stay safe, by not knowing you deeply. They protect themselves from feeling deeply, and in that process, you begin to feel like a stranger in your own relationship. Affection becomes duty, not desire. They give the minimum to avoid confrontation. In the beginning, their touch felt electric. Their words were soft, even romantic. The connection was real, or so you thought. But slowly, affection changes. They hug you, but it feels cold. They say, "I love you," but their eyes are somewhere else. They kiss you, but it's routine, not passion. You're not imagining it. With avoidance, affection becomes a task, not an expression. It becomes something they do, not something they feel. Here's the hidden truth. They don't stop being affectionate because they hate you. They stop because affection now feels like obligation. As the emotional closeness grows, their instinct to protect themselves kicks in. They fear your expectations. They fear needing to perform emotionally every day. They fear losing their independence to your emotional needs. So, what do? They give just enough to stop you from asking questions, just enough to keep the relationship going, just enough to avoid a conversation they're not ready to have. This is what we call minimum effort intimacy. They don't say, "I miss you," because they feel it. They say it because they know they should. They don't hold your hand because they want to. They do it so you don't notice the gap forming between you. To them, affection is no longer a natural flow. It's a responsibility, something they owe the relationship. And that's the difference between someone who loves freely and someone who loves out of fear, avoidance, fear being consumed by someone else's emotions. So to maintain their sense of self, they ration their affection. They keep it controlled, minimal and mechanical. They may still show up. They may still do the things couples do. But you'll start feeling emotionally alone, even when you're not physically alone. Because affection without desire is a lie you can feel in your bones. It's not about what they give. It's about what they're no longer giving from the heart. They'll blame being busy, but emotional distance was the real agenda. The oldest trick in the avoidant playbook isn't silence, it's distraction. They say, "I've been swamped. Work's been crazy. Sorry, I've just had so much going on." And you believe it, because it sounds reasonable. Because we live in a world where being busy is normal. But this isn't about time management. This is about emotional avoidance. Busy is their shield, their cover story, their escape route. When avoidants start to feel close, when intimacy starts demanding attention, they retreat into tasks, schedules, obligations, not because they're driven, but because they're hiding from conversations, hiding from commitment, hiding from the emotional weight that comes with love. Because love requires showing up. It requires presence. And to an avoidant, presence is pressure. So instead of saying, "I'm afraid of how close we're getting," they say, "I'm just so busy right now." And you begin to second-guess yourself. Am I expecting too much? Maybe I'm being clingy? Maybe they really are just overwhelmed. No, don't fall into that trap. Because here's the truth. People make time for what they value, and they create distance from what they fear. The avoidant isn't drowning in work. They're drowning in emotions they can't regulate. So they bury themselves in activity. They stay productive, not to grow, but to escape. Their mind stays busy to avoid the heart. Their hands stay moving so they don't have to sit still and feel. So the next time someone tells you, "I've just been busy," ask yourself, are they busy or are they backing away? Because in the world of avoidance, busy isn't a schedule, it's a strategy. Avoidants protect their ego by starving yours, one cold moment at a time. Avoidants don't break you all at once. They chip away at your self-esteem slowly, quietly, strategically. They won't insult you directly. They won't criticize you out loud. But their coldness, their withdrawal, their indifference, that's how they starve your emotional ego. They give less and less until you start questioning your worth. You'll wonder, am I too emotional? Am I not attractive enough? Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't. But this is what happens when someone deprives you of warmth. You start to blame yourself for the cold. The avoidant doesn't attack you. They just stop feeding you. No reassurance. No genuine compliments. No, "I'm proud of you." No, "I'm here for you." And over time, you shrink. You start to walk on eggshells. You stop asking for what you need. You settle for less because less is all they give you. That's how they protect themselves, by starving you. Because if they feed your ego, they empower you. If they make you feel safe, you'll get closer. If they validate you, they lose control. So instead, they give you just enough to keep you invested, but not enough to let you grow. You'll find yourself begging for basic kindness, grateful for crumbs, apologizing for emotions you were never supposed to suppress. And that's the plan. The more they starve your ego, the more they feed their own sense of control. It's not love, it's emotional manipulation rooted in fear, not malice. They don't mean to hurt you. They just don't know how to love without losing themselves. So they protect their fragile identity by weakening yours. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're no longer yourself.